Hello students, today we are going to learn about the novel Godaan by Premchand. Let's learn about the author first. Dhanpatrai Srivastav, whom the world today knows as Premchand, the great modern writer of Hindi, needs no introduction to patrons of Hindi and Urdu literature. His Godaan, Karmabhumi, Premashram, Gabhan, Nirmala, etc. are classic novels painting different vistas of Indian society of early 20th century, and they can be best described as a true description of an epoch. His short stories also echoed the contemporary times through the real flesh and blood characters ranging from khadi-clad satyagrahis to ordinary peasants, men and women, and even animals. Premchand's works, which are pen photographs of contemporary society, re-echo the changing conditions of existence and psychology under the impact of various currents of thought. They are full of action. Before Premchand came to break new ground, the short story was unknown and novels were few, and second-rate literature was characterized by spicy tales of romance, imagination and adventure, mystery, castles and labyrinthine corridors, all a world of dreamland and fantasy, far removed from reality. Premchand transformed all this. From the stultifying atmosphere of the ivory tower, literature was transported into the hectic and atomistic life of cities, of the breezes of the village fields. Premchand took to writing at a very young age. At the age of 13, he wove a skit around the love affair of a distant uncle. At 14, he wrote a little drama, and his first novel was written when he was just 19. Part of his urge for writing must be ascribed to his vast reading. He read whatever came his way. An important influence on Premchand was the Indian National Congress, which was founded 4 years after his birth. In 1907 appeared Premchand's first short story, Dhania ke sabse anmol ratan. Its theme was that the most valuable thing in the world is the drop of blood shed in defense of the motherland. The keynote of all Premchandian literature is genuine sympathy for peasants. The theme of the present novel Godaan is also Premchand's favorite theme, that of the Indian peasant. Premchand's novels, excellent though they are, scarcely present him as well as do his short stories. Out of his 220 short stories, there are many literary masterpieces. Premchand brought the short story out of dreamland and introduced contemporary themes and plausible plots, all taken from real life. Kings and fairies gave place to ordinary men and women engaged in their struggle of existence. The story revolves around many characters representing the various sections of Indian community. The peasant and rural society is represented by the family of Hori Mahato and his family members, which includes Dhania, Rupa and Sona, his daughters, Gobar, his son, Junia, his daughter-in-law. The story starts from a point where Hori has a deep desire of having a cow as other millions of poor peasants. He purchased, taking the debt of ₹80, a cow from Bhola, a cowherd. Hori tried to cheat his brothers for 10 rupees. This in turn led to a fight between his wife and his younger brother Hira's wife. Jealous of Hori, his younger brother Hira poisoned the cow and ran away because of the fear of the police action. When the police came inquiring the death of the cow, Hori took a loan and paid the bribe to the police and was able to clear off his younger brother from being claimed as a victim by the police. Junia, The daughter of Bhola was a widow and eloped with Gobar after she got pregnant by him. Because of the fear of the action of villagers, Gobar also ran away to the town. But Hori and Dhania were unable to throw a girl carrying their son's child from their doorstep, so they gave her protection, accepting her as their daughter-in-law. The village panchayat takes action against Hori for sheltering a low-caste girl and issued a penalty on Hori. Hori again is compelled to take a loan and pay the penalty. Hori is in huge debt from local money lenders and eventually married off his daughter Rupa for a mere 200 rupees to save his ancestral land from being auctioned because of his inability to pay the land tax. But his determination to pay those 200 rupees and to have a cow to provide milk to his grandson leads to Hori's death because of excessive work. When he was about to die, his wife Dhania took out all the money that she had, but it came to only rupees 1.25 and made Hori pay the priest towards Godaan, which is cow donation. This eventually fulfills the traditional dream of Hori, but still his desire to pay back the rupees 200 to his son-in-law and to have a cow to feed the milk to his grandson remain unfulfilled. Hori is shown as a typical poor peasant and who is the victim of circumstances and possesses all the deficiencies of a common man. But despite all this, he stands by his honesty, duties and judgment when time requires. He is shown dead partially satisfied and partially unsatisfied. Hori is a peasant who is married to Dhania and has 2 daughters and a son. He is an uprighteous man and struggles hard throughout his life to preserve his uprightiousness. He has 2 younger brothers and he considers his obligation as the eldest brother to help them and save them from problems. Sacrificing his own family, he bribes the police officers who come to the village inquiring the death of his cow. Thus, he saves the police from entering his brother Hira's house, and he is a man who is bound to the community and considers the verdict of panchayat as final. He is penalized for the death of the cow and he accepts it. He feels orphaned to be out of the community and hence accepts the penalty levied by the panchayat when Gobar, his son, brings home a low-caste girl. Similarly, he allows Bhola to take his oxen away as he is neither able to pay the cost or willing to send Dhania away from his house because he accepted her as his daughter-in-law. They have accepted and the child that she bears is their grandchild. He is kind and generous throughout the novel. He does not hesitate to give shelter to Celia, a cobbler's daughter who is exploited by Matadin, a Brahmin, and is shirked by her own people. That is Hori. And now coming to the next important character in the novel, that is Dhania. Dhania is Hori's wife, devoted to him and always supportive to him. She is bold and fiery and cannot tolerate injustice. She raises her voice against injustice, against the wishes of Hori, and even irritates him. She is vexed when Hori puts up with a lot of oppression from the moneylenders and the Brahmin priest. Hori, though beats at times for disobeying him, knows that her arguments are correct. She makes him see the truth and the reality of facts. Unlike him, she is not in rigmarole of cliches and ideals. She stands by what she thinks is correct and her dharma, rather than the traditional principles of the community. She knowingly accepts into her household a low-caste girl as her daughter-in-law. she does not blame only Dhania for placing them in an embarrassing position, because she knows that her son Gobar is equally responsible for this act. She is a kind and loving mother and sacrifices much for the sake of her children. She has a generous heart. She takes care of Hira's children when occasion demands. She willingly accommodates and shelters the pregnant Celia, the cobbler's daughter. Dhania has never known a life of peace and comfort, as throughout the novel we see her struggling along with her husband for a livelihood. She emerges as a powerful woman who, irrespective of caste or creed, helps the needy. Now we move on to Gobar. Gobar is the only son of Dhania and Hori. Born into a poor family, he aspires for a life of comfort. Though initially a simpleton like his father, he gets exposure in the city and learns to be practical and worldly wise. He impregnates Dhania, Bhola's daughter, and lacking courage to face the wrath of the villagers, runs away to the city, leaving Dhania at his parents' doorstep. His insensible, hasty behavior creates trouble to Hori, who pays the penalty. Gobar works for Mirza Khurshid but gradually starts his own business. He also lends money to other people. When he comes to the village dressed as a gentleman with pump shoes on a short visit, he is unrecognized with difficulty. He becomes the center of attraction in the village. The other young men are tempted to go to the city along with him, as they see that he is leading a luxurious life. He promises to get them jobs. When he comes to know that Matadin is exploiting his father, he advises his father to come out of the shackles of traditional bindings. He organizes a function and with his friends enacts a skit to expose and satirize the mean mentality of the village moneylenders and the Brahmin priest. He threatens to drag the priest to court and has a fight with his father on this issue. He realizes that Hori is too simple, God-fearing, and cannot go against his dharma. Angrily, he leaves the village with his wife Dhania and returns to the city. His weakness for liquor and short-tempered nature affects his relation with Dhania. He realizes his mistake only when his devoted wife nurses him during his illness. He works in the sugar factory and later becomes the chowkidar at Malati's house. Now we have another character, Matadin. He is the village Brahmin priest and a greedy moneylender. It is ironic that this man with low moral standards goes about the village policing the wrongs of the other villagers. He penalizes Hori for accepting and sheltering a low-caste girl, Dhania, as their daughter-in-law. He is a hypocrite and is blind to the fact that his own son Matadin is having an affair with Celia, who is a cobbler's daughter. He invites Pandits from Varanasi to perform the purifying rituals of his defiled son so that he is brought into the mainstream of Brahminism. He does not pity Hori's poverty, rather takes advantage of his goodness and tries to exploit him. Now we move on to Matadin. He is the son of Brahmin priest Matadin. He is young and has an affair with Celia, a low-caste woman who works on the farm for him. The villagers know about it. Celia does not have entrance into his house. Her parents and relatives hopefully wait for her to be accepted by him. Finally, they decide to punish him and beat him and put a piece of bone into his mouth, a taboo for the Brahmins. Celia comes to his help and saves him. Matadin becomes an outcast in his own house. His father performs purifying rituals to bring him back to the mainstream of Brahmanism. He spends a lot of money on the rituals and Pandits from Kashi are called in. Matadin's malarial fever, which had taken him to death's mouth, has made him realize his mistake in exploiting Celia. When Matadin comes to know that he has a son from Celia, he longs to see the child and goes on sly in her absence. Now he realizes that he is bound by duty to Celia and his son. He removes his holy thread and thus liberates himself from the shackles of Brahmanism. Now he is free to live courageously with Celia as his wife. We move on to discuss the character Bhola. He is a cowherd of the neighboring village. He is a widower and has 2 married sons and a young widowed daughter, Dhania. Bhola agrees to give Hori a cow loan, and in turn Hori promises to find a companion for him to remarry. Bhola is very upset when his daughter elopes with Hori's son Gobar. He comes to Hori's house on vengeance and claims money for the dead cow. Hori does not have rupees 80, the cost of the cow. Bhola threatens to take his oxen away, that would reduce Hori to a laborer. When Hori pleads with him and Bhola suggests that they should throw Dhania, their daughter-in-law, and his own daughter out of the house as she had hurt his feelings. This is not acceptable to Dhania, Hori's wife. It is unbelievable that being Dhania's father, instead of being contented that Hori and his wife have accepted this girl who became pregnant without her marriage being sanctioned, he would like to see her sent away with her infant. He heartlessly takes away Hori's oxen and renders him totally helpless. That was his character. Now we have Rai Sahab also in the story, who has won the local elections twice. He wanted to marry his daughter off to a rich zamindar and again win the election and claim the property of his in-laws. Thus, he married his daughter off to another rich widower and rake zamindar. He claimed and won the zamindari of his in-laws. He won the election and became the municipal minister. But when he planned to get his son married to the daughter of Raja Suryakant for his family's prestige, his son refused that. He is in love with Saroj, the younger sister of Malati Devi. They both married and went away to London. His son claimed and won the entire property Rai Sahab won from his in-laws, leaving Rai Sahab in huge debt. His daughter got divorced, and this eventually left Rai Sahab too dissatisfied despite all his efforts. Miss Malati is a minor character, a beautiful lady, intelligent doctor who is educated in Europe. She is one of the 3 daughters of Mr. Kaul. She is the center of attraction in the parties and is flirtatious. Mr. Khanna flirts with her and she is envied and disliked by Govindi. Malati in turn falls in love with Mr. Mehta because of his ideology, his simplicity and intelligence. On a trip to the village of Hori, she explores herself and she starts serving the poor and gets involved in many social activities. After seeing the change in Malati, Mr. Mehta falls in love with Malati. But though Malati loves Mr. Mehta, she refuses his marriage proposal. She now wants to serve the poor and does not want to marry. Mr. Mehta and Malati keep serving the poor and the needy people together. Malati Devi is the only character shown as contented at the end of the novel because of her commitment to charitable deeds. Now we have Mr. Mehta. He is a scholar and lectures philosophy in a college. He is also authoring a book on philosophy which he dedicates to Malati. Malati and Govindi are 2 characters who are influenced by him. Govindi finds solace talking to him as he appreciates her concept of womanhood. Malati loses her ego and understands the true meaning of life through him. She learns to serve the poor. He needs the guidance of Malati as he has mismanaged his funds and income in over-generously serving the poor. Though he is interested in marrying Malati, the two mutually agree to remain as friends under the same roof and serve the poor. Mr. Khanna is an industrialist and owns a sugar factory. Though married and father of 3 children, he disrespects his wife Govindi for her traditional values. He flirts with Malati. He is unable to recognize the virtues of his wife Govindi, and she is fed up with his behavior, and this goads her to leave home. He exploits the labor class. It's only when his sugar factory is destroyed in a fire accident and Govindi stands by him, encouraging him to set it up once again, he realizes his mistake, and Mr. Khanna eventually starts loving his wife. Now we have Govindi, who is Mr. Khanna's wife, the rich industrialist, and is epitomized as an ideal Hindu wife. She is virtuous and very tolerant with her husband and children. Unfortunately, her husband Mr. Khanna is not interested in her as he finds fault with her traditional values. He takes interest in Miss Malati and flirts with her. Govindi is desperately dejected and decides to abandon him and his house. But it is Mr. Mehta, who has always been appreciative of her ideals, who advises her to return to the children, and she is a moral support to her husband when his sugar factory gets destroyed in the fire. It is she who encourages him to set it up again. The urban society of the novel is represented by Malati Devi, the doctor, Mr. Mehta, lecturer and philosopher, Mr. Khanna, the banker, Rai Sahib, Zamindar, Mr. Thanka, the broker, and Mr. Mirza, the social worker. This group forms the urban class. Unlike general novels, which have a single theme, we have several themes in this novel. To begin with, problems due to caste segregation. People of different vocation and their respective castes represent the village. Matadin, the Brahmin priest, represents the uppermost caste. He exploits the lower caste villagers with his various religious sanctions. Hori, the peasant, Bhola, the cowherd, Celia, a cobbler's daughter, represent the various hierarchies of lower castes in the caste system that existed in India. Now we have another theme, that is exploitation of the lower class. Premchand has drawn a realistic picture of the poor peasants being exploited by the village zamindar and the greedy moneylenders. The zamindars collected the revenue and imposed fine. Here, Rai Sahib fined Hori for the death of the cow, though he did not kill it. The peasants are unable to pay the debts in time, and it gets multiplied with the passage of time. They are caught in a debt trap and they suffer like Hori until their end. The author is advocating the need to end the feudal system that existed in the country. Exploitation of women is another theme that we find. The women characters, Dhania, Junia, Celia, and Rupa, are exploited by the men they love and they are dedicated to. Now, problems due to industrialization are also touched upon. The growth of capitalistic, greedy industrialist who exploits the labor class, migration of youngsters from the villages to the cities, conflicts and tensions in cities are also some of the problems that are projected in the novel. Now, interpersonal relationships between the characters, love and marriage. Premchand, as a progressive writer, envisages a modern India where love and intercaste marriages would thrive. We have the intercaste marriages of Gobar and Dhania, Matadin and Celia, and that of the educated pair Rudra Pratap and Saroj. The marital relationship of Mr. Khanna and his wife is strained as he lacks love and respect for her. Mr. Mehta and Miss Malati have serious thought-provoking discussions on the issues of love, the institution of marriage, the relation of man and woman, and womanhood. They represent the voice of the modern India and mutually decide to live as friends, serving the society in their respective capacities. The political scenario of the period. Now, the country was fighting for its liberation from colonial powers. It was the period for the growth and development of different parties and ideologies. Premchand, through the novel, expresses his stand as a socialist. Socialism is a panacea for all kinds of discrimination and exploitation, and that is seen in the novel very prominently. Premchand started his literary career in 1901 and continued till his death in 1936. What distinguishes Premchand's works from those of the other writers in India is that in them we feel the tempo of the tumultuous times in which he lived. His short stories are a true depiction of an epoch. The India wherein Premchand was born was undergoing tremendous social, religious, intellectual and literary changes. Social and moral values were being challenged. Such was their time when Premchand came on to the literary stage. All the works of Premchand have a bearing on one or the other aspect of contemporary life. They deal with life, they are life. The beauty of Premchand's writing is the effective way he brings forth the exquisiteness of the language through his simplistic style. Say by mere mentions of mundane things like hookah, a smoking pipe, achkan, which is a long coat, bigas, measurement of the land, or festivities like Satyanarayan Katha, Janmashtami, Durgapat, etc. The terms of address like Panditji, Thakurayan, Darwan, Dhobi, Mali, Maharaj, so on, all these succinctly recreate the then existing social stratification. Revisiting those times, you are wrapped with officers of authorities like Daroga Sahib, Munimji, Zamindar, Tahsildar, Raja Sahib and other Babujis and even Sadhu Maharajs and Krantikaris, etc. The narrative represents the average Indian farmer's existence under colonial rule, with the protagonist facing cultural and feudal exploitation. It shows how the life of these characters take different shapes and how the contemporary Indian society is reflected through his works.